Welcome to Legend Voice, where we bring the remarkable stories of history's greatest heroes, scholars, leaders, and legends back to life. Today we travel to the magnificent city of Cordoba in medieval Muslim Spain to discover the extraordinary life of Lubna of Córdoba, a brilliant mathematician, scholar, calligrapher, poet, and royal secretary whose remarkable intelligence made her one of the most fascinating women of the Islamic Golden Age. This is the incredible story of a woman who proved that knowledge, intelligence, and dedication can leave a legacy that survives for centuries. Lubna of Córdoba, the extraordinary life story of a Muslim scholar, scribe, and intellectual. Lubna of Córdoba was one of the most remarkable women of medieval Islamic Spain. She lived during the golden age of the Umayyad Caliphate of Cordoba, a period when Cordoba became one of the greatest centers of learning, culture, science, and intellectual life in Europe. She was not a queen who ruled an empire with armies. She was not a warrior who conquered distant lands. Instead, Lubna's power came from something different, her extraordinary mind. She became known as a highly educated scholar, a skilled mathematician, a talented poet, an expert calligrapher, and an accomplished secretary and scribe in the royal court. She was also associated with the famous Library of Cordoba, one of the greatest centers of books and knowledge in the medieval Muslim world. Her story is especially fascinating because she rose to prominence in a society where opportunities for women were often limited by social circumstances. Yet Lubna's intelligence and abilities allowed her to enter the intellectual and administrative world of the Umayyad court. Much of Lubna's personal life remains unknown. Historians do not have a complete record of her birth, family, education, or death. Some later accounts also contain details that historians debate. Nevertheless, the surviving tradition surrounding her life presents the image of a woman whose intellectual achievements were extraordinary for her time. The world into which Lubna was born. To understand Lubna's life, we first need to understand the world of 10th century Cordoba. Cordoba was the capital of the Umayyad Caliphate of al-Andalus, the Muslim-ruled territories of the Iberian Peninsula. During the 10th century, especially under the rule of Caliph Abdul Rahman III and later his son al-Hakam II, Cordoba experienced a remarkable period of prosperity and intellectual development. The city was famous for its architecture, markets, gardens, bridges, mosques, and educational institutions. Travelers describe Cordoba as a city of extraordinary beauty and sophistication. Its streets were better developed than those of many contemporary European cities. Public baths were common. Water systems supplied parts of the city. Markets were filled with merchants and craftsmen. But perhaps Cordoba's greatest achievement was its love of knowledge. Books were highly valued. Scholars traveled across the Islamic world in search of manuscripts. Scientific works from Greek, Persian, and Indian traditions were translated, copied, studied, and expanded upon. In this environment, a person with exceptional intellectual ability could rise to prominence. And Lubna was one of those exceptional individuals. Lubna's early life. The exact date of Lubna's birth is unknown. Historians believe she lived during the 10th century, most likely during the reign of the Umayyad Caliph al-Hakam II, who ruled Cordoba from 961 to 976. The details of her family background are also uncertain. Some historical traditions describe Lubna as having been born into slavery or as having had humble origins within the royal household. According to these accounts, her intelligence and abilities eventually brought her to the attention of the Umayyad court. This aspect of her story makes her rise particularly remarkable. In medieval societies, a person's social position could strongly influence their opportunities. Yet, Lubna's intellectual abilities apparently allowed her to move beyond the limitations of her circumstances. She was not remembered because of her wealth. She was remembered because of her knowledge. From an early age, Lubna demonstrated an extraordinary talent for learning. She became highly educated in subjects that required years of specialized study. Her knowledge reportedly included Arabic language and literature, poetry, grammar, mathematics, and writing. She also became an accomplished calligrapher. In an age before printing presses were widely available, books had to be copied by hand. A skilled scribe was therefore an extremely valuable person. And Lubna was more than a simple copyist. She was an intellectual, a woman of extraordinary education. One of the most fascinating aspects of Lubna's story is the breadth of her education. She was reportedly skilled in mathematics and was especially knowledgeable in arithmetic and related sciences. Some traditions credit her with understanding complex mathematical problems that required advanced reasoning. Her mathematical abilities were important because mathematics was essential to many aspects of medieval life. It was used in astronomy, architecture, trade, inheritance calculations, land measurement, and calendar systems. The Islamic world of the 10th century was experiencing major developments in mathematics. Scholars were studying algebra, geometry, arithmetic, and astronomy. Knowledge from earlier civilizations was being preserved and developed. Lubna's ability to operate within this intellectual environment demonstrates that she was not merely literate. She belonged to the educated elite of her time. She was also known for her command of Arabic literature and poetry. Arabic was one of the great literary languages of the medieval world, and mastery of it required extensive education. A highly educated person in the royal court needed to understand grammar, rhetoric, poetry, history, and the complex traditions of Arabic writing. Lubna reportedly mastered these fields. Her intelligence eventually brought her into the service of the Umayyad court. Lubna and the royal court. The turning point in Lubna's life came when her abilities were recognized by the rulers of Cordoba. She became associated with the court of al-Hakam II, one of the most intellectually minded rulers of medieval al-Andalus. Al-Hakam II was famous for his passion for books and scholarship. Unlike rulers who focused primarily on military expansion, al-Hakam II developed a reputation as a patron of knowledge. He supported scholars, poets, scientists, translators, and intellectuals. During his reign, Cordoba's intellectual culture flourished. And within this environment, Lubna found an opportunity to use her extraordinary abilities. She became a royal secretary and scribe. This was a position of great responsibility. Being a secretary in the royal court was not simply a clerical job. Royal correspondence had to be written with precision. Official documents needed to use sophisticated language. Diplomatic messages required careful wording. Administrative records had to be maintained accurately. A mistake in an important document could have serious political consequences. Lubna's knowledge of language, literature, mathematics, and writing made her exceptionally qualified for such responsibilities. Her position demonstrated the trust that the royal court placed in her abilities. The Great Library of Cordoba. Perhaps the most famous part of Lubna's story is her connection with the Great Library of Cordoba. During the reign of Al-Hakam II, Cordoba became famous for its enormous collection of books. The caliph reportedly had a deep passion for collecting manuscripts. His agents searched throughout the Islamic world for rare and valuable works. They traveled to cities such as Baghdad, Cairo, Damascus, and other centers of learning. Books were purchased, copied, commissioned, and brought back to Cordoba. The result was a magnificent intellectual collection. Later accounts often describe the royal library as containing hundreds of thousands of volumes. The exact number is difficult to verify, and some figures may have been exaggerated by later writers. Nevertheless, there is little doubt that the library was extraordinarily large and important for its time, and Lubna was reportedly connected with the management and organization of this intellectual treasure. She may have worked as a librarian, secretary, or administrator within the royal library. Her role would have required exceptional organizational skills. Imagine the challenge. Every manuscript had to be identified. Books had to be catalogued. Titles and authors needed to be recorded. Copies had to be organized. New works arriving from distant lands needed to be incorporated into the collection. The library was not simply a room filled with books. It was a massive intellectual institution. Lubna's involvement in such a place reveals the level of trust placed in her. A woman who understood the power of books. For Lubna, books were more than objects. They were vessels of knowledge. During her lifetime, the Muslim world was experiencing an intellectual transformation. Scholars were collecting knowledge from ancient civilizations and building upon it. Greek philosophy was being studied. Persian literature was being preserved. Indian mathematical ideas were spreading. Astronomy was developing. Medicine was advancing. Geography was being explored. Mathematics was becoming increasingly sophisticated. Libraries played a crucial role in this process. A library allowed generations of knowledge to be preserved in one place. For someone like Lubna, working among thousands of manuscripts must have been an extraordinary experience. She would have encountered works on philosophy, mathematics, medicine, poetry, history, astronomy, religion, and language. Her role allowed her to stand at the center of one of the greatest intellectual environments of medieval Europe, Lubna the mathematician. Lubna's reputation as a mathematician is one of the most intriguing elements of her legacy. Historical traditions describe her as highly skilled in mathematics and arithmetic. Some accounts even associate her with explaining difficult mathematical problems. Although the exact details of her mathematical work have not survived, her reputation suggests that she was considered an expert by people who knew her. This is significant because advanced mathematics was a specialized field. A person could not simply become a mathematician without years of study. Mathematical knowledge was connected to astronomy, architecture, commerce, engineering, and administration. In the Islamic world, mathematical scholarship was becoming increasingly advanced. The work of earlier scholars such as al-Khwarizmi had already transformed mathematical thinking. Algebraic methods were developing, numerical systems were becoming more practical, scholars were working on geometry and astronomical calculations. Lubna's mathematical expertise placed her within this intellectual tradition. Her story challenges the modern assumption that medieval women were completely excluded from scientific and intellectual life. While opportunities were certainly limited for many women, history reveals that some women became scholars, physicians, poets, teachers, and patrons of knowledge. Lubna was one of the most extraordinary examples. Lubna the calligrapher. Another important part of Lubna's reputation was her skill in calligraphy. In the medieval Islamic world, calligraphy was not simply handwriting, it was an art form. The written word was deeply respected, and beautifully written manuscripts were treasured. A skilled calligrapher needed patience, precision, artistic judgment, and extensive knowledge of the Arabic language. Lubna reportedly possessed these qualities. Her ability to write and copy manuscripts would have been particularly valuable in the royal library. Before the invention of modern printing, every book had to be copied by hand. A single manuscript could take months or even years to produce. The work required teams of specialists. Calligraphers copied the text. Illuminators decorated pages. Bookbinders assembled the manuscripts. Scholars checked the accuracy of the copies. In this world, a highly skilled scribe like Lubna played an important role in preserving knowledge. Her work helped ensure that ideas could survive from one generation to another. A poet and woman of letters, Lubna was also associated with poetry and literature. The ability to compose poetry was highly respected in medieval Arab and Andalusian culture. Poetry was an important part of public life. It was used to celebrate victories, express love, praise rulers, criticize political events, and explore philosophical ideas. The royal courts of al-Andalus were filled with poets and intellectuals. For Lubna to be recognized as a poet indicates the breadth of her education. She was not simply trained to perform administrative tasks. She was part of a sophisticated literary culture. Her knowledge of Arabic language and literature allowed her to communicate with the educated elite of her society. This combination of skills made her unusually valuable. She could understand complex texts. She could write elegant Arabic. She could work with official documents. She could handle mathematical problems. She could contribute to the intellectual life of the court. Few people possess such a broad range of abilities. A teacher and intellectual. Some historical traditions also connect Lubna with teaching. Whether she formally operated as a teacher in a major institution or simply instructed people within intellectual circles is not always clear. But her reputation suggests that she was capable of explaining complex ideas. This is an important distinction. Knowledge is one thing, the ability to communicate knowledge is another. A great scholar must not only understand difficult subjects but also be able to explain them. Lubna's intellectual reputation suggests that she had this ability. Her influence therefore may have extended beyond her own work. She could inspire others to study. She could help preserve knowledge. She could participate in scholarly discussions. And she could serve as an example of intellectual achievement. Lubna and the Intellectual Golden Age of Cordoba. Lubna's life cannot be separated from the broader intellectual achievements of al-Andalus. During the 10th century, Muslim Spain became one of the most important intellectual regions of Europe. Cordoba attracted scholars from many different places. Knowledge traveled across the Mediterranean. Books moved between cities. Ideas crossed cultural boundaries. The intellectual world was not isolated. It was connected to the larger Islamic civilization. Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, Kairouan, and Cordoba were part of a vast network of scholarship. The movement of books and scholars allowed knowledge to travel over enormous distances. Lubna worked at the heart of this system. Her association with the Royal Library meant that she was connected to one of the greatest collections of knowledge in the Western Islamic world. She lived during a time when books could change the course of history. and she helped preserve them. A woman in a world dominated by men. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Lubna's story is the position she achieved as a woman. Medieval societies were generally structured around male authority. Women often had fewer opportunities for formal education and public employment. Yet the history of the Islamic world includes many highly educated women. Women studied religious sciences. Some became scholars of hadith. Others became poets, physicians, teachers, and patrons. Lubna belonged to this broader tradition. Her story does not mean that women in medieval al-Andalus enjoyed complete equality. They did not. Social class, family background, and gender strongly influence people's lives. But Lubna's achievements demonstrate that exceptional women could sometimes rise to positions of influence through education and talent. Her story is therefore not simply about one woman. It is also about the power of knowledge to cross social boundaries. The political changes after Al-Hakam II. Lubna's life was connected to the stability of the Umayyad court. But after the death of Al-Hakam II in 976, the political situation in Cordoba began to change. The young Hisham II became caliph. Because of his youth, powerful figures within the court gained increasing influence. Over time, the political system became dominated by Al-Mansur ibn Abi Amir, better known in European sources as Al-Manzur. The intellectual and political environment of Cordoba gradually changed. The era of Al-Hakam II, with its extraordinary focus on books and scholarship, began to fade. The great library associated with the caliph's reign would eventually suffer during the political upheavals that followed. Some accounts claim that large numbers of books were destroyed or removed. The exact circumstances are debated by historians, but the decline of the Umayyad state eventually brought instability to Cordoba. This was part of a larger transformation that would eventually lead to the collapse of the Caliphate of Cordoba in the early 11th century. Lubna's world was therefore beginning to disappear. The mystery of Lubna's final years. One of the great mysteries of Lubna's life is what happened to her in her final years. Historical sources provide very little reliable information about her death. Her exact date of death is uncertain. The place of her death is also not clearly established. This is common in the history of medieval women. Even when women achieved remarkable accomplishments, historical records often preserved fewer details about their lives than those of powerful men. We know about Lubna because her reputation survived, but we do not have a complete biography written by someone who knew her personally. As a result, historians must reconstruct her life from scattered references. Some details may have been exaggerated by later writers, others may have been lost completely. Yet the central picture remains powerful. Lubna was an educated woman who achieved a remarkable position in the intellectual world of 10th century Cordoba. Why Lubna's story matters today? Lubna's story matters because it reminds us that history is not only the story of kings and conquerors. It is also the story of people who preserved knowledge. While rulers built palaces and armies, scholars built something less visible but equally important. They built intellectual civilization. Lubna represents this side of history. She reminds us of the importance of libraries. She reminds us of the value of education. She reminds us that women played important roles in the intellectual history of the medieval Muslim world. And perhaps most importantly, she reminds us that extraordinary talent can emerge from unexpected places. According to the traditions surrounding her life, Lubna did not become famous because she inherited a throne. She became famous because she mastered knowledge. Her intelligence opened doors that social circumstances might otherwise have kept closed. The legacy of Lubna of Córdoba. Today, Lubna is remembered as one of the remarkable intellectual women of medieval al-Andalus. Her legacy is connected with several achievements. She is remembered as a scholar. She is remembered as a mathematician. She is remembered as a calligrapher. She is remembered as a poet. She is remembered as a royal secretary. And she is remembered for her association with the great library of Cordoba. But her greatest legacy may be the example she represents. In a world without computers, universities as we know them, or modern printing presses, knowledge depended on people.
people who studied, people who copied books, people who organized libraries, people who translated texts, people who preserved ideas. Lubna was one of those people. She lived at a moment when Cordoba was becoming a beacon of knowledge, and she stood near the center of that intellectual world. Final thoughts. The story of Lubna of Cordoba is a story of intelligence, ambition, education, and the power of knowledge. She lived more than 1,000 years ago, yet her story still feels surprisingly modern. She reminds us that a person's greatest strength may not be physical power or political authority. Sometimes, the greatest power is the ability to learn. Lubna lived in an age when books were precious and knowledge traveled slowly. Yet, she became part of a civilization that valued scholarship and intellectual achievement. She worked with manuscripts. She mastered mathematics. She practiced calligraphy. She participated in literature. She served the royal court, and she became associated with one of the greatest libraries of the medieval world. Her story also reveals an important truth about history. Many extraordinary women have been forgotten not because they lacked achievement, but because their stories were not preserved as carefully as those of powerful men. Lubna's life survives through scattered historical traditions, and some details remain uncertain. But even with those uncertainties, the image of Lubna remains inspiring. She was a woman who transformed knowledge into influence. She was a scholar in an age of scholars. She was a scribe in a world built on handwritten books. She was a mathematician during a golden age of scientific discovery, and she was a woman who reached the highest intellectual circles of Cordoba through the power of her mind. More than 1,000 years later, the name of Lubna of Cordoba still carries a powerful message. Knowledge can become a legacy. Empires disappear. Palaces crumble. Political dynasties rise and fall. But the ideas preserved by scholars can survive for centuries. And perhaps that is why the story of Lubna deserves to be remembered. Not as the story of a queen without a crown, but as the story of a woman whose greatest kingdom was the world of knowledge. If you enjoy fascinating historical biographies, Islamic history, forgotten Muslim scholars, and stories of extraordinary people from the past, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible stories from history. Thanks for watching.